Hello everybody, I am Ron Baker, and for those of you who don't know me, for the last 25 years, I've been guiding people through a process of self-empowerment, one that allows for consistent, practical, reliable growth and enhancements in our lives. And the reason I'm here today is to talk about what is probably at the forefront of every person's life around the world. The coronavirus, what is being called a pandemic and a global crisis. However, I don't want this conversation to be one more fearful soundbite. Quite the contrary, I want this to become a conversation about how do we turn this time of global interruption and shared challenge into a time of unprecedented awakening, discovery, and proactive solutions. I know that is possible. That is exactly what I have been experiencing, not only in my own life, but that I've been helping my clients to consider, to grow into. It has created so much calm in a time of unprecedented interruption. I don't know about you, but it seems to me this is the first time in my lifetime that such an event is taking place that is interrupting so many systems all around the world. But I have some good news within all of that and how we can use this time to create some real enhancements in our lives. You see, I believe that our challenges are there as an opportunity for us to discover what is working and what is not working very well. This is an important part of our wake-up call, because this can be a huge wake-up call if we're willing to show up, willing to consider possibilities that haven't been introduced before. How do we turn this into a time that is not perceived as crisis, but is perceived as a true wake-up call? Well, let's first identify crisis. For me, a crisis is simply an event that occurs where I feel unprepared to respond, where I don't feel clear about solutions and possibilities. And so instead of this remaining a crisis that is impacting people all around the world, let's become educated. Let's consider perspectives that will also include proactive solutions. How you can literally turn this time of challenge into a way to claim more of self, to deepen a sense of self, a solidity and a trust in yourself, and how you set yourself up well in your lives. I don't care whether you are in the same region, the same country. This is impacting the whole world. The great news? The solutions that are needed are shared solutions. They apply to everyone all over the world. So what I'm going to do is give an introduction in this video. And then over the coming days and weeks, I will be introducing a series of perspectives and tools for creating proactive, solid sense of self, where we claim more of our empowerment to use this time to not only survive what we're facing together, but to actually enhance what our lives will be after this. Like all other crises that have occurred in life, this too will pass. No one knows at this time how long it will take before we are on the other side of this. But ask yourself as we begin this series of videos, who do you want to be on the other side of this? You're going to go through the same weeks and probably months of moving back into a solid flow. But do you want to be the same person you were before this began? Or would you like to use this opportunity so that on the other side of this wake-up call, you feel way more solid? You've used the time well. You feel proud of yourself for the way that you show up. In order to do that, we all need a deeper education about what's actually taking place, and even more important in some ways, a deeper education about self. First of all, when any challenge occurs, we first discover, who are you now? Who are you at the beginning of this challenge? What have you been discovering about yourself already? People's lives are being interrupted in so many ways, so many systems. In the area where I live, restaurants are only allowed to be open for takeout. Most other businesses are shut down. We're not allowed to gather in large groups, etc. Many interruptions. Lots of people's lives are being interrupted financially as well. When the flow and the interaction of our lives gets interrupted, we don't create the same investment in each other, and therefore it slows down and interrupts lots of people on a financial level. That tends to create not only a health scare, but a financial scare. Those are two of the most foundational levels of our lives. Any one of those things being interrupted, but once you start this interrupt in place, and it impacts a number of different facets of what we call the foundation of self, the foundation of our lives, it is going to trigger whatever parts of self are not already solid and trusted. It is going to show us who we are today at the beginning of this challenge. What I want you to know by the time we go through this series of videos is a whole different sense of self, is a whole different awareness of possibilities and enhancements that you can create and set in motion, so that once this crisis passes, you will be able to perpetuate a life where you're not just waiting for the next interrupt, wondering in fear and anxiety, but instead aware that you can make choices that build a solid trust of self. Once that begins to take place, part of the solution is going to be learning how to come together with other people to create a mutual support system. All too often we go through our lives prior to this wake-up call, this interrupt. We've been going through our lives all too often self-involved, wrapped up in our own agendas, not so aware of creating powerful, clear, mutual support in our lives. We all need that in a big way. Our lives are so much more fulfilled when we have that and trust that. But I live in the same world you do, and I know that this is not the typical way we invest in each other's lives, particularly as our lives have gotten so busy and we have so many distractions, and we have not prioritized self. We have not prioritized one another nearly to the depths that we can. And the first thing that I want to point out as a potential gift of this challenge we're all facing is that the entire world is going through this together. When do we remember another time over the last decades when the entire world was going through something on equal footing, on equal grounds, no matter what someone's financial strata happens to be, no matter what culture, race, religion. This particular wake-up call is showing us so much more about our shared humanity. We all share the same basic needs. We all share the same basic fears. And when we face something together, somehow we have this seemingly magical way of transcending our habitual separation, our habitual isolated lives. And we recognize the humanity, the shared humanity. This needs to become a proactive choice. This needs to be something that we don't just decide to practice while the crisis is happening, and then when we get to the other side of it, we go back to the same old limited choices. This is why I'm creating these videos, because the tools that I will share that are immediately needed are proactive choices that will set you up so much better in your life going forward. Let's just look at the fact that this is initially a health scare, a fear of getting a virus. So I ask you, in your old choices, how proactive have you felt about your health? Do you make choices that allow you to sustain reliable health? Or do you worry when you're going to get sick next? Typical flu or whatever your particular patterns have been. I want you to know it's entirely possible to set yourself up so that you have much more consistent health. I personally, because of the choices that I've been developing over the last 30 years, have been applying these to myself, passing these on to my clients. And as an example, I personally have gone for the last 20 years without getting sick, not even colds. Now, I had one night this last year where I had some food that didn't agree with me, and that ended up creating some nausea all night long. But other than that one moment of food poisoning, 20 years of proactive health, 20 years of trusting that my choices are setting me up well. Do you begin to see why I don't want you to go back to the old choices, but I want in this time of immediate need for you to discover how you can set yourself up well. Practical, nurturing choices that will set you up for a whole different level of safety and trust. Two words that are not flowing out of people's mouths over these last weeks with this global crisis and scare. When you have a different sense of self, you can set up each part of your life more effectively. You can create a support system with other people who show up in mutual value, creating a sense of shared humanity, shared trust and support that most people have never known in their entire life. Even in our family systems, how often people express to me that they don't really feel safe to share and support. They don't feel they can count on even the people in their most immediate families. And there are specific reasons for this. There are specific ways you can heal those things that are not difficult. They are actually safe, one step at a time processes that you can move through that I've been watching enhance families for the last 30 years. So in this time of wake up, so many things become immediate. So I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself, some ways to evaluate what you're discovering about yourself at the beginning of this crisis. Where are you now? How clear do you feel about your health choices? How safe do you feel? How strong does your nervous system feel? So that if indeed you get a flu or you get even this coronavirus, that you can be like what so many others are discovering, that you can move through these symptoms and you can just feel a version of flu that is more dry symptoms than the typical phlegmatic or wet symptoms of a lot of other viruses. So, how safe and proactive do you feel at this moment? What are you discovering emotionally? Have you mostly stayed solid and clear? Or have you moved into some anxiety and fear, getting caught up in the frenzy that's going on around you? What I'm going to point out in these videos going forward is that there is so little education about self. There are 3 levels of self that we have the potential to grow into, and you will be surprised, at least most of my clients are, that we have been mostly trapped in the most primitive parts of self, which is where fear and anxiety reside. How pulled into fear and frenzy have you been? As an example, I watch my clients at various levels of their growth, and I watch myself. I'm not in major fear. I'm well aware of the shakeup. I too have had interruptions financially, structurally. The same systems and stores and places where I go have been interrupted. But my sense of self is calm and responsive and is well practiced at looking for the opportunities to face challenge and create enhancements in my life. That is what I've already begun to do. That is what I've been helping my clients do. So I ask you, are you more in fear? Or are you more in a trust of proactive solutions that you've set in motion and made sure are there as clear systems in your life so that you can become a true inspiration to other people who are going through all of this? By the time we go through this series of videos, I guarantee you, you will have perspectives about what does this mean in the world? What is it an opportunity to discover? What things do you need to watch out for that are going on in certain agendas and systems in the world? We are discovering some major glitches in those systems, and the more you learn, you can count on you and the support structure of people that you proactively build in your life, the less you will feel like a child, dependent, fearful, stuck in this initial core of challenge. The greater you will feel empowered, prepared to respond, prepared to go through whatever is necessary. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of the systems in the world in these videos and some of the things we need to be aware of and how we can prepare for other wake-up calls that we are likely to face together as a world in the coming decade. So important to become educated and proactive in your life. That is how we will turn this time of global interrupt and potential crisis into a time of awakening and proactive enhancement in your life. This is just an introduction. I will be passing on certain tools. I will be talking about a number of practical things you can do to take advantage of this time, what you need to watch out for in the acceleration of certain agendas in the world around us, how to navigate and make choices that will serve the good of the whole. Some of these old choices we've been making that are so focused on me, in fear and just trying to fulfill some limited agendas, because we haven't become aware of more proactive alternatives that serve my life, that serve my support system, that serve people all around the world who are more alike than we are different. This can become a major shift. People say, Ron, are you concerned that the world will never be the same again? And I say, of course the world will never be the same again. The world is not the same today as it was last month, nor was it the same last month as it was the year before that. The world is constantly changing. The last 30 years has been a constant introduction of newness. Our lives are very different than they were, and the world will continue to change. Who will you become within all of that? Will you learn to turn the opportunity of change and the opportunity of challenge into better and better and better? That is what I know is possible, the solid sense of self that I can't wait to pass on to you. So please share this video with other people whose lives need this education, and I look forward to sharing with you some truly universal, surprising, inspiring perspectives about what is possible. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Watch your inbox for these next videos. And for those of you who don't happen to be on my mailing list so that you will get these videos, just sign up by going to ronbaker.net. And there will be simple ways on the home page that you can sign up for this free series of videos that will allow us to turn this into proactive awakening and solution. Thank you. Talk to you soon.